Okay. Going to Facebook here.
Can you check the Facebook?
Here, I'm going now here real quick.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm very pleased to introduce two wonderful presenters today at our Peer CPI presentation lecture session. Lauren Koszyk and Adam Salas. I would like to introduce Lauren first. So Lauren Koszyk currently maintains a versatile career as a collaborative pianist in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. As a pianist and coach, she has worked with the Midwest Institute of Opera and Illinois Festival Opera and has accompanied masterclasses given by renowned Metropolitan Opera soprani Angela Brown and Yvonne Redmond. She has received numerous grants to present at conferences, including the Music Teachers National Association Conference, National Conference on Keyboard Pedagogy, and Illinois State Music Teachers Association Conference. She has her Master of Music in Collaborative Piano with a related field in early music from the University of North Texas and her Bachelor of Music in Piano Performance, as well as her Bachelor of Arts in German from Illinois State University, where she graduated summa cum laude. Now we have Adam Salas, devoted to the future of piano pedagogy, has represented at the Music Teachers National Association Conference, National Conference on Keyboard Pedagogy, Texas Music Teachers Association Convention, and MTNA Collegiate Symposium on topics ranging from practice strategies to meditation and mindfulness for musicians. Actively involved in his teaching communities, Adam has served on the board of the Dallas Music Teachers Association and chaired the DMTA Jazz Pop Festival and Contest. Adam currently serves on the faculty of Texas Women's University, where he teaches keyboard musicianship and functional group piano for music majors, and is a postgraduate fellow at the New School for Music Study. He earned his Bachelor of Music in Piano Performance and Music Business from Illinois State University, and his Master of Music in Piano Performance and Pedagogy from Southern Methodist University. They will present a lecture called No Student is an Island, Integrating Collaborative Piano Pedagogy into Your Studio. So I'm going to pass them to start their presentation.
Hello. We first would like to say thank you for Dr. Jessica Kobe and the Puerto Rico Collaborative Piano Institute for having us. We feel very grateful to be part of such a wonderful mission.
No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a cloud be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well any manner of thy friends or of thy own were. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. The famous words written by John Donne, "No man is an island entire of itself," is a truth to be acknowledged for our students. Young students' piano studies can at times feel isolating, However, the often unexplored variety of collaborative music making experiences has the ability to excite and inspire them, in addition to exposing young students to often underrepresented voices in classical music.
The development of collaborative piano skills during pre-college study is a fulfilling and worthwhile addition to students' curriculums. By encouraging these skills, we can increase students' commitment to piano and their interest in a wide variety of the creative possibilities available. The diversity of collaborative piano repertoire can create a lifetime's worth of enjoyment and fulfillment, and many students are not introduced to the possibilities of the collaborative world at an early age. The social, musical, and critical thinking skills developed through these practices facilitates greater independence and a propensity toward the rewarding lifelong practice of making music with others.
Though the coordination and development of multi-instrument partnering may initially feel overwhelming, this session is aimed at laying the groundwork for a successful and straightforward step-by-step approach to giving students their first experiences in making music with other instrumentalists and vocalists. We will give an introduction and overview to the repertoire available and explanation of introductory collaborative piano skills, partnership techniques, and realistic rehearsal and performance methods. We hope to leave you with a new avenue for creating collaborative engagement within your studio and community.
Pre-college teaching is an essential component of music majors and freelance professional pianists' livelihood. Though in-person opportunities for collaboration were brought to a halt by the global pandemic, pre-college teaching survived, thrived even, creating a stable source of income for many during this uncertain time. We aim to inspire teachers and consequently their students to integrate their work, pre-college teaching, and their passion and focus of study, collaborative piano, in innovative and thought-provoking ways, thus creating more meaningful experiences that symbiotically aid in their collaborative piano education. Professional pianists and collegiate professors will also benefit from this concept as they gain a new way to create hands-on learning experiences for their students, who often are pre-college teachers, by challenging pre-college teachers to think outside of the box, to showcase and create a new learning avenue for their students and teachers alike.
There are many benefits to incorporating collaborative education into your pre-college and recreational studios. As collaborative piano students and professionals, we should share the skills of our specialized field with our young and developing students, and with our students learning piano for the joy of making music, not in a professional context. This also enriches the overall experience of our students, creating a multifaceted situation for each student and teacher. Spearheading these new experiences for our students fosters self-learning and enriches the peer-oriented experiences available to them. Incorporating collaborative education into your pre-college and recreational teaching exposes students to a diverse pool of repertoire and experiences. The repertoire for duo and chamber ensembles, even with beginning level repertoire, greatly expands a young pianist's look into composers' styles and sounds. This new variety of experiences and opportunities consequently creates more engaged students. The prospect of being able to work with their peers and others is also highly motivating. During times of isolation and distancing, community building and a feeling of connectedness is priceless in students' lives.
There are many ways to develop a community of music making and collaboration. For the collaborative piano graduate student teaching in addition to their studies, or the freelance pianist with a portion of their income coming from pre-college teaching, there are plenty of resources and opportunities around them that do not take considerable additional time and effort to secure.
A convenient and often organic source of collaboration is among students' family members. As often, students have siblings, parents, or friends who play an instrument. There may already be informal collaboration taking place at home. Why not harness this excitement and energy for the art and guide their learning process?
So I currently have a 9-year-old student whose brother is also learning guitar at the same time. So they were both learning the theme to Ode to Joy, as many young students do, and they decided to play this together at home. And after my student Maya excitedly told me the story in her next lesson, we played the piece together, and I pointed out a few spots that may have been a little tricky for them to coordinate. So she reported that they did in trouble have fact in those spots. And we discussed some of the steps that Adam and I here will introduce next to help Maya's collaborative process. So even though this was a very basic form of collaboration with two people playing a monophonic melody together, being a part of this process and creating awareness of collaboration as a skill was a priceless moment for me and Maya in the studio.
Another convenient option for collaboration partners is to connect with another studio teacher, as we often have colleagues and friends teaching similar levels in the same area. What a great opportunity to enrich both of your students' musical offerings. Timing for a project like this often aligns well within the flexibility of summer. Solo and ensemble contest time, often in the spring, is a great opportunity for young pianists to get their feet wet in the collaborative arts.
Speaking of summer, another fun and flexible option for your studio is to have a summer camp based around collaboration. This can also create an additional income stream during the usually less busy summertime.
Another straightforward way to foster a collaborative community is to look within your own studio. Students are often enrolled in band, orchestra, or choir in school. They may already be taking voice or violin lessons in addition to their piano studies. Since you already understand the capabilities and knowledge of your students, it makes it easier to pair up students on comparable levels.
For example, I have two 6-year-old students in my studio right now that both take Suzuki violin lessons in addition to their piano studies with me. So as they are both already very familiar with the melodies of their violin pieces, this has opened up a really exciting avenue for us to explore. I'm currently in the process of preparing them to rehearse with one another, and they're both just really excited and just so thrilled to get to use all of their musical skill set at the same time.
There are several pre-college programs that foster collaborative skills. The Eastman School of Music has a collaborative piano skills course as part of their community music school. Their website states, "This class will encourage piano students to become well-rounded musicians. Playing the piano and collaboratively is an organic and natural extension of being a pianist." Also, Texas Christian University in Fort Worth has a virtual summer workshop titled Collaborative Piano Summer Workshop, aimed at undergraduate piano students and young students exploring the field of collaboration. Another interesting program is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and it's titled the Young Performers Workshop. You can check out more on their website at youngperformersnetworkworkshop.com.
Lastly, COVID-19 has created a flurry of innovation in technology and musicians' technological understanding. Another convenient option is to have students who play instruments in addition to piano to record themselves and merge the two tracks. Affordable and free resources for this include iMovie on Mac, Shortcut on Windows, or Mac. Apps include FreeMake Video Merger, Quick, and Adobe Premiere Rush. There's also web-based services including YouTube Editor, Merge Video, and Adobe Spark. I currently have a junior high student who plays both violin and piano. As she is anxiously awaiting her second vaccine shot, we're working on a self-recording project where she is recording both the violin and piano parts, and we will stitch those videos together at the completion of the project. Please share in the chat with us other video stitch style apps that you have had success with in the past year.
Yes, that would be awesome to see if anyone had any other apps or websites that they use. Please take a moment now to also download the handout in the chat for further exploration of repertoire by diverse composers. Feel free to explore our other resources listed there as well. By no means is this a comprehensive list, but just a starting point from which to grow the collaborative process and enjoyment for you and your students. Now we will introduce a step-by-step process introducing collaboration to your pre-college and recreational music making students. The first step is to discuss the text, if applicable. Obviously, this is for a vocal repertoire. It is often helpful to choose music with familiar melodies as the student has already an idea of the artistic image of the piece. If it is a vocal piece, it's a great time to start the habit of visiting the text first. Really delve into the poetry or text with the student to explore where to stress and where to move through corresponding music. For example, we have chosen Margaret Bond's He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. Familiar songs of popular music or sacred music tradition of the student can often be helpful. It would also, we suggest this piece would be good for high school students of a late intermediate or early advanced level.
Great, and so please share in the chat here ideas for other introductory collaborative piano works. We'd love to hear what works you have tried in your studio here for your students. Great, so our next step in our process is addressing the pianistically difficult sections and then taking a look at the whole piece here for the pianist. So as always, it is good to first identify the pianistically difficult sections of music and secure technical and musical demands of these sections. Even in beginning repertoire, this often includes the preludes and the postludes. So in the piece we are looking at today, Margaret Bond's He's Got the Whole World in His Hand. As expected, it has a challenging piano introduction here in the first 4 measures of the song. You can see this here on our slide. Also tricky is a transition between verses here in measure 21 and 22. We'll revisit this later. And then also measure 30 is another tricky section for the pianist. So with the student to work through these challenge spots, we recommend establishing the key, discussing fingerings, practice hands separately, noting chorale style figures in the main chords. Not all of the chords in this example are root position chords for the student. Rhythm here isn't difficult, but tapping will help secure that. Chord voicings are also something to address here. So trying to find groupings and demonstrating position changes to the students using the method of look, feel, and listen. Once the pianistically difficult sections are comfortable and confident with the piano part within the scope of the piece, the student is ready to move on to the next step.
Next step is learning the vocal or instrumental part. Young pianists and non-professional piano students may not be comfortable singing. However, this is a great time to encourage them to use the most innate way of making music. If students vehemently protest singing, encourage them to play the vocal or instrumental line on the piano while shaping and incorporating dynamics into their playing. Humming may also be less daunting for the student. As the teacher, this is the time to highlight areas that are difficult for the soloist, encouraging students to feel the difficulty for the soloist, whether it's transitioning to head voice, singing a low note in one's register, or dealing with the frog on violin. Walking in our musical partner's shoes is a wonderful lesson in musical empathy. Once fully comfortable with the vocalist or instrumentalist part on its own, have the student sing or play the soloist line while you play the piano part. This creates a whole new level of musical empathy and will hopefully give the young pianist clear ideas and bodily awareness of what sections need to be managed in terms of ensemble and balance, etc.
The next step to the process is to discuss these findings with your student and discuss the interconnectedness of parts. So discuss the findings of your student in the previous step. What have they noticed is difficult for the vocalist or instrumentalist? Where will ensemble be challenging? What can be done to resolve and manage these issues? For example, in Margaret Bond's He's Got the Whole World in His Hand, there is a syncopation in the voice part that reappears many times over. So addressing this in its simplest form in measure 8, shown here on the slide, will hopefully create a solid foundation for when it repeats in its most challenging form in measure 24.
Marking the score to see the division of beats is helpful in many sections with syncopation like this. Here, we can ask the student to tap the rhythm for both the piano and vocal part on their own, and then combine them. The student may also benefit from playing the left-hand piano part and the right-hand vocal part. What methods of coordination do you need? When do you make eye contact? How does the soloist stand so everyone can stay in communication? Where are you going to plan cues needed to discuss in rehearsal? These are all great questions to think of when working with your student for the first time.
So take a look at the score. So how does the composer use phrasing and structure between the instruments? Are there sections where phrasing is passed between musicians? Who has cadences? Where is the climax of the piece, and how can both musicians support it? In our example here, one of the difficult pianistic sections discussed earlier is also an exciting interlude for the pianist and an important bridge to the next verse. Having students feel the connection between their parts is an essential part of the music. Also, it's great to anticipate where balance will be an issue. As the teacher, you can guide them in these spots, but perhaps the student will have ideas on their own from the previous exercise, or if they play the same instrument. Discuss the options of full stick, half stick, or quarter stick. Now is a great time to explain to the student that it is preferable for both the soloist and pianist to keep the lid open for both the sound of piano and the overtones, and for the support of the soloist. Show them how we as pianists can adjust balance from the keyboard. Intentional use of pedal, voicing, and balance between hands can be shown here as well.
Once you feel your student is adequately prepared in not only their playing, but their understanding of their partner in the music, it is time to set up a rehearsal. And we know how difficult that can be. It is great to have a teacher there to guide the process in case anything goes awry, and to assist the students in their very first foray into the collaborative process. First, allow the students to rehearse on their own. This may start with a run through of the piece or looking at specific sections you have discussed. Take note of which concepts have been internalized and which are being acted upon, and of course, if any, need further reinforcement.
A discussion of balance may be needed here again. If you are in the space of the performance or recording, it is a great time to fine-tune the setup and balance issues. Offer the students different configurations of the piano and soloist, offering the kinesthetic and aural experiences of how different piano and soloist configurations can affect the sound. Guide the student in any problem spots of balance and how to resolve them. In our example, in Margaret Bonds's He's Got the Whole World in His Hand, in measure 14 through 16, the pianist has dense chords in the middle register, with their counterpart in a weaker part of the voice. This is important to point out to the pianist. Balance issues can be avoided here by judicious use of pedal and voicing to the top of the chords, if that is within the skill level of the pianist at the time. Being a part of the rehearsal process, you can then determine how many further rehearsals are needed and what needs to be addressed in the private lesson setting before the next rehearsal.
Of course, finally, it's time for all that hard work to pay off. Hopefully both students feel comfortable and confident with their performance and have a rewarding first collaborative experience. These types of performances would be great in solo student recitals. That's a great crowd pleaser to see two students up there together, and I'm sure it would be inspiring for other students who might be inspired to work with other of their colleagues as well.
In conclusion, as collaborative pianists and collaborative piano students, we should share our love for our art with the next generation. As pre-college teaching is often a slice of our multifaceted professional pie, why not use our resources and knowledge to work in a new way that not only benefits our students, but benefits our skills and our spirit as well. By approaching the art of collaboration with integrity, intentionality, and concrete steps to success, we can make this often unclear process achievable and exciting for our students. And by breaking down the barriers of the process and skill acquisition, we can encourage a wider diversity of students into the field. During this time of isolation and disconnectedness, collaboration and community are more important than ever before. Creating an environment of learning, understanding, and diversity, equity, and inclusion are paramount to our responsibility as artists and world citizens. If the writer John Donne would please forgive us, we can rewrite his famous poem in this way.
No student is an island entire of itself. Every student is a piece of the musical community, a part of the main. If a cleft be washed away by the sea, the musical world is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as any manner of thy friends or of thine own were. Any musician's absence diminishes me because I am involved in collaboration, and therefore never send to know for whom the metronome tolls. It tolls for thee.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you both. Here, yeah, there we go. We can go back to seeing each other. Great. So I know a couple of people have been monitoring chat in the Zoom and Facebook feeds. Why don't we start with the Facebook feed comments or questions that have come up?
Yeah, so there weren't too many comments on the Facebook. We had one person, Rory Bolton, saying that basically just sharing appreciation for you all and for your presentation. And other than that, we didn't actually have any comments or questions there. But I did have one, if that's all right. I was wondering if you have any advice for how to teach the communication portion of it during rehearsals, and how to kind of respectfully and productively have that communication aspect.
That's a great question. Yes, learning how to collaborate and learning how to rehearse is a very important and very different skill set.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be a great aspect to incorporate into one of the earlier steps when preparing for rehearsal, when speaking of spots to watch out for balance or cues and that sort of thing. That would be a great time to introduce great phrases and verbiage to use in the rehearsal setting. So preparing them in advance to set that expectation early, I think would be a great time to do so.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Just want to say hello to Rory Bolton out there. he's a good friend of ours.
We just had a couple comments on the chat here, just iPhones. A lot of us use iPhones to record our students, and, having the students do that too. I learned about 4X Camera, the app, from Anna Maria Otamendi. She recommended that last summer. And professionally, I haven't used it, but I have used it with my private students, because especially during COVID, it was fun to match it up, and then you could send them the duet together, and they like that. I do have a question. It was a great presentation. Thank you so much. I think it's so important to that we speak to these young pianists and we really educate them in a fun way. I find that one of the struggles, well, there's two, but they kind of go together. And I'm in an area now, I haven't lived here my whole life. Fortunately, I grew up all over the world. So I had lots of different types of music, right? And, culture that kind of I invested in early with not realizing that those things would be important for me as a musician. But I find where I'm at right now, there's not a lot of diversity in music. That's the first thing. And trying to explore doing that, and maybe potentially adding in the sight reading, so that it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be recital worthy, but wouldn't it be great? And this is just me, because these things I think would be great. It'd be really a lot of work to have like a compilation of pieces for young students that teachers could, in a collaborative sense, that they could go to, and there's diverse repertoire from all over that maybe they've never heard, and that allow, because sometimes people have difficulty finding that. So how do you incorporate those two things with your students?
Yeah, so I think, we feel like we aren't reinventing the wheel here, but we just want to really bring awareness to bringing collaborative processes to the pre-college studio, because we feel like that's something that's not often done. And I think bringing that sense of community will really open up the field to young students from diverse backgrounds that aren't already attracted kind of to our classical music, our art, Western art music setting here. So I think, yes, a great resource would be some sort of kind of Jay McGraw style compilation of early collaborative work. So maybe that's someone's dissertation kind of in the works here. We'll see. But I think that would be a great addition to the repertoire. We have on our handout here included some different resources. There's some resources for kind of early piano and violin duets. And then we also tried to include a wide variety of resources, because we also feel that including that diverse repertoire, especially from an early age, is really important.
Great, thank you. Anatolia had a question in the chat. She asks, what are your thoughts on incorporating composing and improvisations to your students' involvement and training to playing collaborative music, whether it's chamber, duo, trio, or vocal works?
I think improvisation in general is so important for young developing musicians. And I think tying that into collaboration and working with other people, the aspect of being on the spot and reacting to what's happening around you, or what you're doing on the keyboard, and being able to probably, most circumstances while collaborating, you're sometimes sight reading for the first time, right? A lot of times. And so you need those skills. Collaborative pianists need those skills to read through and maybe improvise if they don't have passages in their hands, and things like that. So Lauren, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, I'll just second what you said. I think incorporating those skills early on, sometimes that feels very separate from our kind of turn the page method book sometimes, but I think adding that collaborative experience really creates a means to the end. So it gives the students reason and motivation to improve those composition and improvisation skills.
Hi, Lauren and Adam. Congratulations on your lecture. I really loved it. And it's been a while since I taught pre-college students. So it's really refreshing to see how you guys are really into it, and having this worry about getting them involved with music, making music together. I was wondering if you ever incorporate to your teaching also sessions of listening. And if you do that, would you start with something kind of a system to do it, doing first listening to duos or trios, or what kind of repertoire you would start your students into listening to?
Would you like to take that first, Adam?
Sure. Yeah, I think I always suggest for students, especially even private students, that they listen to some recordings a lot. Some teachers don't agree that people don't like to listen to recordings of pieces they're learning, but I think for young students, the most exposure to high quality music making is very important to their development, and just of their musical ear, right? And so for all these collaborative pieces and collaborative works, starting with things like trios, accessible music, arrangements, even the piano guys, and popular music like that is appealing to younger students. And I think that's a great way into that whole world of listening for balance, listening for communication, and YouTube videos where watching people react and communicate on stage non-verbally is very important. So yeah, I think that would be the best way.
Yeah, and I'll just add in there. So in my studio here this coming year, I have a fun project planned where I have a composer of the month, where each student will learn about the composer, the history. I'm including a wide variety of composers and diversity in that field, which is really exciting for me. And I'm sending each student home with a listening assignment each week, so they can really start to understand the different textures and sounds and timbre, all the sounds here of the orchestra and duos and instruments different from the piano. So that's how I kind of incorporate in a more concrete way. So I have a composer of the month, and then they have a listening assignment each week then.
And I can add that's also easily included on their assignment sheet. So you can have a separate section for that. And I think also, in addition to listening to, the piece that they're learning, of course, supplement that with other repertoire of similar styles, or other, like if say you're teaching a violin sonata, you would assign other works by that same composer, right? And so they get a general idea of that composer's style, and then just how those two instruments sound together.
Anatolia has a question.
Sorry. Yes. Well, I was actually writing them all down. I was wondering what your thoughts are on incorporating composing and improvisation for our younger students' involvement and training in terms of playing collaboratively, chamber music, vocal accompanying, in terms of duos, trios, whichever sort of ensemble we are able to put together. That's one side of my question, and the other is, what are your thoughts and ideas on ways to enhance, support, and promote building a community and inter-collaboration of instrumental and vocal private studios in our areas in order to achieve something like that? A real collaborative sort of program that goes throughout the year, every now and there. And how can we also make it a very significant part of MTNA or the Francis Clark Institute? Thank you.
Great, thank you so much for your questions. Let's see, so I might give Adam that first question there, just to review our thoughts on composition and improvisation, but I'll address the idea of community building here. So our presentation here was aimed at incorporating collaborative piano and collaborative skills into your studio. So we recognize that studio teachers often do not have a lot of extra time to be building additional programs and extensive structures for a main set of involvement here. So we wanted to really incorporate some step-by-step processes that will allow for this to happen naturally and to happen easily for the studio teacher. So it will be easy to incorporate this as often as possible. I think incorporating larger structures, creating a larger community and system of collaborative piano education is definitely a worthwhile endeavor. And that's definitely something to ponder on later as well. So I think that's definitely important for the future of the field. Let's see, maybe Adam can also speak to a little bit of what's happening perhaps at MTNA and the Francis Clark Center with collaboration as well.
Yeah, I think one of the most important resources that we have as teachers is all of these groups that we can be a part of, like local associations and groups like that. And so you can meet a variety of teachers. Within a music school setting, you can meet all of the different instrumentalists and vocal teachers. And I'm sure people that you collaborate with professionally have their own students that you can probably be, you can tell them about a student who's precocious and willing and excited to play with other people, and see if they have any students, because I'm sure everyone can probably think of at least one student who would enjoy doing that kind of activity. And structuring it, it seems daunting at first to figure out, oh, when am I going to rehearse? But if the two students are willing enough and the parents are on board, finding times where maybe their lessons are back to back, or even if it's siblings, it's easier to coordinate things like that, like rehearsals and lining up lessons that way. And as for your question about creativity, I think there's a few methods. There's a book called Chord Play, and I can't remember the name. I'll probably send something out. But I think a student really needs a good foundation in theory, of course, for things like that, with just even basic tonic and dominant chords. If a student can find a fifth and maybe root position chords, they can work from there, and improvisation, even just left hand fifths, finding the roots of chords, outlining that in a score for the student would be helpful. And that could be an activity on its own, just taking apart a piece and finding that skeleton of how the music flows, could be a good activity where the student plays through and just finds those outlying chords. And I think yeah, there's so many options. And that's what's so great, I think, and so interesting about what we do as teachers, and figuring out ways to help our students.
Great, and I'll just tag along one more thought here on the question of community creation. So since I've started to incorporate collaborative experiences into my studio, it's really had a snowball effect. So I think our presentation here is aimed at kind of taking that first step. Since I've started this experience, other students have seen the other students and really want to be involved in something similar. And it's been easier and easier for me to get other students involved and create new experiences that work and are tailored to each student. So really just getting this started, I think will create that ripple effect that we're looking for here.
And one more thing, I think, I don't know, we haven't mentioned it, but just the idea of all of our student duets that we play with our students are, so important. Teaching stage presence, communication, counting in, nodding. I make all of my young students, even if they're 4 or 5 years old, be able to count themselves in and start in the same tempo and keep that. So I think that's also just building strong foundations technically, rhythmically, and overall musicianship wise are very important to get to that next step of working with another musician.
Ko-woon, you had a question that you put in the chat. I'm just going to turn it over to you right now.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so just wondering, because some young students like they love musical theater, and some of them actually like involved in the musical theater. So I just want them like not only able to sing, but they definitely understand what's going on the piano part. If they can do that, I mean that would be really great. So do you guys have any like have it or use any method book for some musical theater repertoire, particularly more like early intermediate student?
Great question. Yeah, so musical theater is a great way to bring students into collaboration with those familiar melodies they're already excited about. So I don't know, can't think of any method books off of the top of my head to incorporate musical theater, but I think choosing pieces maybe like from The Sound of Music or from musicals like Annie that are pianistically more approachable, I think would work well for this. So really, as the pianist and as the teacher, taking a look at those pieces and kind of hand selecting. And if you're working with a teacher of voice, I would maybe as the piano teacher take a look at those scores first, just to make sure they are approachable for the student.
And also, I think like Lauren said, it's so important to choose pieces for your students that they can actually manage, because we don't want to discourage our students if they can't play something, or some of those, the Broadway music, the rhythm is very difficult with all of the ties, and some are faster tempos. So finding an easier arrangement, or even if it's, we as pianists, we can arrange our own. I know Lauren has done quite a few arrangements this year. She sent me a few of hers, so I have some of her originals. And I think the most important thing is to make the experience in general fun, or beneficial, because if they can't play these pieces, it's not going to be a very good first impression of collaborative music making.
Thank you.
Ilana, go ahead, ask your question.
Okay, I'm just wondering, when you go about collaborating with other teachers and their students, do you usually try to play something that the instrumentalist or singer already knows? Or do you work with them on choosing a new piece for both people? Or how do you go about that?
Great question, thank you. Yeah, so I think it really depends on the student, and I really believe in tailoring education to the student and their abilities and interests as well. So I think it really depends. Like I said, I've had really good success, 2 students both playing Suzuki violin, so they know a lot of the same pieces. I think probably approaching a new collaboration, a new set of duo partners here would be to choose a piece that speaks to the skills, the strengths of both students would be ideal. But of course, we understand that that doesn't always happen. So finding known melodies, maybe popular music or sacred or secular music that's known to the student, I think is helpful. You know, they get more excited about it and they have are already familiar kind of with the ideas of the piece. So even if, you know, the piece is new for the pianist, they may already know the theme of, you know, Somewhere Over the Rainbow or something like that. Do you have any thoughts to add, Adam?
No, I think yeah, everything you said was spot on. So.
We did have one more comment on the Facebook video that says, just adding in the summer collaborative experience is Wheaton College, which I didn't know. So that's cool.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Are there any other questions? All right, well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Lauren and Adam, for joining us today. And it's been really neat to meet you, as we've realized we have many mutual friends, which is neat. I love that part of the music world. And thank you to Anatolia for connecting us with you guys. And Stacy too, I think, yeah. This was great. And thank you for the handout. We'll make sure that that is available to those who want it. And yeah, we will look forward to future collaborations with you both, and best wishes as you guys continue through your careers.
Thank you so much for having us today.
Yes, thank you. Bye, everyone.